Star Trek is ready to end one of its best eras in history. So what's next? One of the greatest eras in the history of Star Trek comics is coming to an end, but what comes next? In the fall of 2022, IDW, who had held the Star Trek comic book rights since 2007, gave the line a shot in the arm by introducing a grand, multi-year story that drew on all corners of the franchise. A hit with fans, the era is now ending, but what comes next? Star Trek has a long history in comics, with the first ones appearing a little over a year after the show premiered. Gold Key, the first company to obtain the rights, would hold it until the debut of 1979 Star Trek, the motion picture, at which point they went to Marvel. After a lukewarm run at the House of Ideas, DC would hold the license for over a decade, creating some epic and memorable stories, such as Who Killed Captain Kirk? Other publishers, such as Malibu and Wildstorm, also published Star Trek comics before the rights arrived at IDW. When IDW obtained the license, the Star Trek franchise had gone dormant. Both Star Trek Enterprise and Star Trek Nemesis failed to land with a larger audience, resulting in Paramount retreating back to dream it up all over again. The end result was 2009's J.J. Abrams' helmed Star Trek, which would become a formative influence on the franchise moving forward. During this time, IDW published a variety of miniseries starring the crew of the Next Generation, as well as a series of one-shots spotlighting the franchise's many aliens. After Star Trek premiered in theaters, IDW launched a new series featuring the Kelvin crew in Classic Adventures, the first big swing the publisher would take with the franchise. After Star Trek premiered in theaters, IDW launched a new series featuring the Kelvin crew in Classic Adventures, the first big swing the publisher would take with the franchise. This series was followed by Star Trek Boldly Go, which continued the Kelvin team's adventures post-Star Trek Beyond. IDW also published a highly acclaimed series of books set in the fan-favorite Mirror universe, as well as Star Trek Year 4 and Year 5. These bold and innovative titles set the stage for the revitalization of the Star Trek comics line in 2022. The God War kicked off a new era for Star Trek comics. IDW kicked off its line-wide restart with the anthology book Star Trek #400. Created to celebrate 400 issues of Star Trek comics at IDW, the one-shot's final story sowed the seeds for what colloquially came to be regarded as the God War. A month later, Star Trek #1 debuted, officially kicking off IDW's exciting new era of Star Trek comics. Written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, and drawn by an all-star roster of artists, Star Trek sets the bar extremely high for future comics based on the franchise. For nearly a decade, Star Trek has experienced a vibrant and often divisive renaissance. Launching with Star Trek Discovery in 2017, followed by Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Prodigy, the franchise expanded into a multi-series universe unlike anything since the heyday of the 1990s. But now, as Picard is wrapped, Discovery concludes with its 5th season, and rumors swirl about the final chapters of Lower Decks and Prodigy. Fans are bracing for the end of what has been one of Star Trek's most creatively bold eras. The question looming over the quadrant is simple yet terrifying: what's next? The modern Trek Renaissance. This most recent phase of Star Trek, spearheaded by executive producer Alex Kurtzman, was nothing if not ambitious. After a long hiatus following the end of Enterprise in 2005 and the rise of J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline movies, Discovery marked the return of Star Trek to television. And it didn't play it safe. The show leapt forward in time, introduced serialized storytelling, reimagined Klingons, and anchored the narrative in emotion rather than technobabble. The success of Discovery paved the way for other series that diversified the tone, scope, and style of the franchise. Star Trek Picard gave us a wistful, introspective return to a fan-favorite captain, while Lower Decks infused the franchise with irreverent humor and deep-cut references. Strange New Worlds finally gave the fandom what they'd long begged for: episodic storytelling that felt like classic TOS, but with 21st century production values and a more progressive lens. In other words, Star Trek got experimental, nostalgic, inclusive, and sometimes a little weird. And that's exactly what made this era work. Signs of an ending. But even bold eras must face the final frontier. With Discovery Season 5 marking the end of the series that launched New Trek, A symbolic chapter is closing. Picard already bowed out with a heartfelt Season 3 that reunited the Next Generation cast, delivering fan service with surprising narrative heft. Lower Decks is rumored to be concluding soon, and while Strange New Worlds remains active, even it could be sailing into the latter half of its lifespan if production costs and creative shifts take their toll. Paramount's financial troubles and the streaming industry's new emphasis on profitability over proliferation have also impacted Star Trek's future. While Kurtzman confirmed multiple Trek projects are in development, including the Section 31 movie starring Michelle Yeoh and a Starfleet Academy series, the explosive expansion appears to be over. The Star Trek universe may be contracting to something smaller, more focused, and possibly more cinematic. It's not the first time the franchise has faced transition. Fans who lived through the end of the Voyager and DS9 era, followed by the cancellation of Enterprise, know the pain of a golden age ending. But back then, Star Trek disappeared from television entirely for over a decade. This time, something different is brewing. What comes next? With Star Trek looking to move beyond this golden chapter, the future may rest in both honoring the old and taking the biggest risks yet. Here's what might lie ahead. 1. Section 31 goes full prestige. Michelle Yeoh's Section 31 movie finally entered production after years of speculation. With Yeoh fresh off her Oscar win for Everything Everywhere All at Once, the project has a chance to elevate Trek into the realm of prestige sci-fi drama. Less traditional Starfleet, more morally gray espionage thriller, Section 31 could redefine what Star Trek is allowed to be. If it lands well, this could become a template for limited event Trek storytelling. Imagine high-budget, one-off films or short series exploring characters like Worf, Janeway, or even Sisko in his post-Prophet existence. 2. Starfleet Academy targets the next generation literally. The announced Starfleet Academy series is expected to cater to a younger demographic while still being part of established canon, with showrunners pitching it as a coming-of-age story within the universe's most hopeful institution. This could be Star Trek's answer to Stranger Things or Wednesday. That's risky, but necessary. Trek must continuously regenerate its fanbase. Just as the Next Generation brought in kids of the 80s and Voyager captured millennials, Academy could be a gateway series for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. 3. Strange New Worlds becomes the cornerstone. With many series wrapping, Strange New Worlds is now the standard bearer for televised Trek. Its strong ensemble cast, breathtaking visuals, and balance between emotional depth and exploration make it arguably the best modern Trek show. Expect it to anchor the franchise for the next few years, perhaps even crossing over with other characters and shows, just like DS9 and TNG once did. Pike, Spock, and Una could become the faces of Star Trek's new middle era, much like Picard once was. 4. Animation evolves or ends. Lower Decks was a miracle. It merged comedy with lore, became a love letter to the franchise, and gave us moments that made us laugh and unexpectedly cry. But animated Trek's survival isn't guaranteed. If Lower Decks ends soon and Prodigy underperforms, Paramount may pull back from the format. Still, animation offers untapped promise. A TNG-era series, a Romulan political drama, or a Lower Decks-style spin-off with Klingons could all thrive if properly marketed. 5.